Hello and welcome back to the Ultimate English course. Today we are back with yet another lesson. Every day we face situations where we have to make requests or ask for permissions. We have to be polite in order to build rapport and keep our relationships healthy. So today we look at those two very important functions. Before we do that, make sure you subscribe to keep getting our videos. Let's say you want somebody to close the window. How would you tell them to close the window? Can you just say close the window? That would not be polite. So what can you say? You can say, can you close the window? Can you please close the window? You can also say, would you close the window? Or would you please close the window? And to be even more polite, you can say, could you please close the window? Or you could also say, would you mind closing the window? So we have these different options, and let's learn how to use each one of them. Let's start with can. Can is used for making requests. Look at these sentences. Can you inform the students about the test? Or can you make dinner today? Can is used for casual requests. You can also use can to ask for permissions. Can I use the printer? Or can I take a short break? Can is also used to grant permission. You can say, you can use the coffee machine anytime. Next, let's move on to usage of would. Would is often used with please and is more polite than can. Look at this sentence. Would you please email the document to me? And please note that we have placed please after would you and before the verb. You can also place please at the end of the sentence. You can say, would you cancel the order please? That is also correct. Now let's look at the usage of could, which is even more polite and is often used with please. For example, could you please schedule the meeting for tomorrow? Or could you please talk to the manager about the issue? Could is also used to ask permissions. You can say, could I come in a little late tomorrow? Or could I use the conference room for the training program? Now let's move on to the usage of may. May is very formal and not used much. Let's look at these examples. May I join the discussion? Or may I speak to you for a few minutes? And when you're asking for permissions, please note that you cannot use may with you. But when you're granting permissions, you can make sentences like these. You may commence the program. Now let's look at the structure of the sentences when we use can, could, would, or may. We start the sentence with these words, can, could, would, or may, and then you have the subject followed by the verb in the base form. You can only use the verb in the base form for these structures, like this sentence here. Can you open the box? First you have can, and then you have you, which is a subject, and then the verb in the base form here, it is open. Next, let's look at how to respond to these requests. If someone makes a request like this, could you please send the email to me? How would you respond? You can say sure, you can say no problem, you can say yes, I can do that, or yes, I'll do that. And if you want to refuse, how will you do that? You can say, I'm sorry, I can't. Or I would love to, but I'm busy right now. Now let's look at the usage of would you mind. Now this structure is used in formal situations and it is most polite. It is used where there's a need for a high degree of formality. Look at this example. Would you mind waiting outside? Or would you mind turning down the volume? Please notice the structure. After would you mind, the verb is in the ing form. You use this in situations where you want to be careful, you don't want to offend the other person. And this structure can also be used to ask permissions. For example, would you mind if I turned on the light? So here you're using if. So you have would you mind and then if and the past form of the verb. When you use would you mind, it is like asking the other person, do you have an objection? And how would you respond to these kind of requests? You would say no, not at all, which actually means a yes, which means you don't mind. You have no problem with that. So you can say no, not at all. Or you can say of course not. And if you want to refuse, you can politely say, I'm afraid that's not possible. Or I'm afraid I can't do that. Or I'm afraid you can't do that. So these are the different structures that you can use to make requests and ask for permissions. I hope that was useful to you. Make sure you subscribe, like, and share. Thank you so much.